First launched back in 2019, the Peugeot E-208 proved to be a fantastic option for people looking to get into their first electric car. It offered great styling, great space, personality, great driving dynamics, and a pretty good range. However, the first generation of cars did leave a bit of a sour taste in some people's mouth, with those cars claiming around 200 miles, but in the winter, without a heat pump, it was dropping to around 150. So for this new generation of Peugeot, they've given it a facelift. It now looks sharper than ever. It's got some extra equipment on the interior, and all importantly, they've adapted that battery to be the new generation battery, which should go further than before. Hi guys, I'm Tish and welcome to sunny Barcelona. Today I'm checking out the latest generation facelift of the Peugeot E-208, and in today's video I'll tell you all of the changes and whether I still think it's a fantastic option if you're looking at purchasing your first electric car. So if that sounds good, then please do keep watching, and if you like new car reviews and car content, then you know what to do. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. So first off, let's get the really important stuff out of the way. So, battery, what's changed? Nothing has strictly changed for this facelifted car, mostly because this little EV already had the slightly larger 51 kilowatt hour battery, which is fitted to the 308, confirmed for this model at the start of the year. The new E208 also retains all the optimisations made in 2021, including a heat pump, low-resistant tyres and a revised gear ratio. With these previous improvements and the new ones, the Peugeot E208 now offers 17.65% increase in range and 15% reduction in energy consumption, now increasing the range to 248 miles. Other than that battery technology, however, the rest is pretty much the same as it was before, and that's not a bad thing, because the Peugeot E208 was always quite a sharp handling small car, and I'm just pleased we're still seeing a small car. A lot of people may be thinking that it's disappointing that the new generation of the E208 only gets 250 miles when we know that Peugeot have just released cars with close to 450. But you have to remember that to be able to fit those massive batteries of 98 kilowatts of what is in the Peugeot E-3008, you need a much larger car. You can't package those large batteries in a car of this size. So despite the fact that it doesn't have quite as much range as those cars or even as some other competitors, I'm just pleased that we're still seeing a small car. It's not very often that a car stands the test of time quite as well as this little Peugeot. The existing model, well, it still looked great. It still stood out amongst all of the electric small cars that you can buy on the market. However, Peugeot weren't happy with that. They wanted to give it a little bit of a spruce up for 2024. They're not huge changes, but existing customers loved their Peugeot E208, so they didn't want to take too many radical changes. Mainly, you'll now notice that you've got a larger grille, of course, to accommodate that great big Peugeot badge. And you now have colour-coded blending into the grille. So whatever colour you get your car in, that will blend into the grille now. You now have the daytime running lights, which are the lion slashes, so that it matches with the rest of the lineup, and you also get these free formation LED headlamps. You get a few different alloy wheel options as well, 16s and 17s, and they all come in those very jazzy, very controversial Peugeot alloys. Let me know, what are you thinking of the new Peugeot alloys? Do you like them, or are they a bit too busy? Pop it in the comments down below. And you'll notice that there's a new colour palette. Gone is the existing yellow, and we now have this very vibrant, bright, greeny yellow colour instead. Highlighter green, will you? It actually reminds me a lot of the colour that you get on the current Abarth. I wonder if the Abarth E has been lending some of its colour palettes to Peugeot. Either way, I'm not complaining because I love a bright colour, but this is definitely going to divide opinions, possibly even more than the previous yellow did. I think it looks great though, with contrasting black wing mirrors, black roof, and you've also got those black wheel skirts as well. It just looks really, really good. Around the back, you've got a few more changes as well, including the lights, which have been flipped from now being horizontal instead. Elsewhere, it still very much looks like the existing car that we know and love. Similar to the changes on the exterior, or lack thereof, that's the same when it comes onto the interior. The changes are very minimal. But once again, that's intentional, or at least Peugeot have gotten away with it because they did a really good job the first time around. The Peugeot E-208 did have one of the best small cabins on the market. It always had the perfect blend of feeling driver focused. You had a good mix of materials, and it just felt a really pleasant place to be. And that is exactly the same for the new generation car. All the lovely elements that made people love the Peugeot E-208 are still there. You still get some fantastic, really supportive seats, and you get even more jazzy designs than ever before. Although these are the upgraded versions, which are electric, which are quite a pricey option for a small car. But they're still really high quality even if you go for the entry level models. You still have the same centre console setup. You've got little bits of storage that you can pop out. You've got the same piano keys, but you do have a new infotainment system. This is something which really needed updating for the new generation. It's now larger and it has the latest generation of technology from Stellantis. So you'll find this in a lot of other products as well. And of course, the Peugeot E-208's older brothers like the 308. This new system is really easy to use, it's super customizable, and it means that you can put everything you need in reach within a few buttons or even just one button. I would really prefer to have climate control dials, but I like the fact that they've tried to combat this as best as possible and made it as easy as it can be to find. You still get the little steering wheel. Main change is that you now have the new Peugeot badge on the steering wheel. Unfortunately, it does still fall foul of that situation of not always being able to see the digital dashboard. I do think it's a little bit of a shame that we do still have this same 3D eye cockpit. It still looks modern, it doesn't look outdated, that's not the problem. But I've jumped in this car and I've gotten into my comfortable driving position in terms of where I'm sitting and where I have the steering wheel. And I am falling foul of the fact that I can't see what speed I'm going at. My steering wheel is right in the way of my digital dashboard. So I am going to have to either decide to sit up much higher or put my steering wheel much lower to be able to actually see everything in front of me. And I do think this is a shame because once again, we know that this has been changed, for instance, on the new 3008. So it would have been nice to see a new generation of Scream which answered these issues. Without just regurgitating everything which has ever been said in a Peugeot E-208 review, the car does drive brilliantly, there's no complaints. The steering is really well weighted, it hasn't had the issue of being too light despite being a city car. It's actually quite well weighted and that gives you a good connection to the steering wheel. Once again, you have the benefit of the steering wheel being a little bit petite, so it means that it does give you that go-kart feel, which I really love about this car. The steering also has really good feedback. There isn't any situations where I feel like I'm out of control. It seems to be handling it perfectly well. I mean, ultimately, you're probably not going to be buying this car to be rally driving, but it does give you the feeling that you could push it hard if you really wanted to. Of course, with it being an electric car, you do miss out on some of the sounds and some of the nice bits like that, but actually, it's a really enjoyable drive.
You can opt to stick with a standard 7.4 kilowatt charger, which will top up the battery from 20 to 80% in 4 hours and 40 minutes, or you can spec an optional 11 kilowatt 3-phase to reduce the time. Top-end charging remains at 100 kilowatts from a fast charger.
Space in the back has, well, you've guessed it, not really changed, especially because they haven't mechanically changed anything in the Peugeot E-208. So it's going to be exactly the same in the back as the previous generation. And that means that it doesn't have the most space. You are going to find more space in, for instance, the Aura Funky Cat. It's not a bad place to be though. It can be a little bit dark, especially in this GT line, because you've got dark headlining and a lot of dark interiors. What I find interesting is you've actually got a USB and USB-C in the back here, which I think is really great. 2 USB-Cs up front, and then you've got the option of both in the back. And that does mean that if you've accidentally forgotten your USB-C cable and someone's already using the wireless charger, then you can still use your USB in the back instead. Unfortunately, you're not going to find any cup holders in the centre armrest, and there's not much space or storage in the door cards either. But it's kind of to be expected in a small car. What's not to be expected in a small electric car, however, is the transmission tunnel. Unfortunately, because this platform still does accommodate petrol and hybrid, it means that you do get quite a significant hump in the floor. So middle seat passengers are not going to be very comfortable. And whilst most of the lack of changes can be forgiven, there's one thing I really wish they'd added to this new generation of car, and that's to have an adjustable boot floor. That way it would hide the cables and it would also make it easier for loading items in. Unfortunately, you still have quite a high load lip and there's nowhere to tuck the cables out of sight.
So storage space remains at a respectable 311 litres, plenty for a weekly shop. Specifications are set up as 3 different models: Active, Allure and GT, with the prices for the Active starting at $32,400, and the top spec GT with all the bells and whistles will set you back nearly £4,000 more. Prices are not outrageous, but they still look pricey next to the more accommodating MG4, which starts around $27,000. There will also be a run out of cars labelled E-Style, which will feature the previous smaller battery, but get a ton more specification for just under £33,000.
Some people watching may be disappointed that the littlest Peugeot in the lineup didn't get the largest new battery technology, which will take it as far as 450 miles. But realistically, those of us that know about electric cars knew that that was never going to happen. For a larger battery, you need a larger car. And actually, I think 250 miles is about right for a Super Mini. But let me know, what do you think of the changes that Peugeot have made to the latest generation of E-208? Pop it in the comments down below. I really hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more, then you know what to do. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Until next time, guys, see you later.